Hey, what's going on, guys? So this is my second review for this week. This is the Sébile Action First Squarebill Sunfish. Now, Sébile kind of revamped their lineup of lures. They were a little bit more in the premium fishing lures. I would say, not to say that their lures aren't premium, but they were priced more at a premium price previously, and now, and I don't know if it's just their Action First lineup, but now Sébile has come down with their fishing hard baits into a more affordable range. This one is listed on Tackle Warehouse as being $6.95, which is much more affordable considering that your Lucky Crafts and Jackalls of the world are $15.99, upwards of $17.99. And so to find a crankbait like this just makes it much more affordable and could possibly make it more popular if people get out there and try out a lure like this. Now, my experience on the water was a little different than your traditional Squarebill crankbaits, and I'll tell you about that here in a moment. But I want to go over some of the features of this crankbait right out of the box. It has Tackle Warehouse only carries one size in this Sunfish version. Now they have another one, another Squarebill crankbait that is called the Action First Bull Crank shallow crankbait, and they don't call it a Squarebill, they call it a shallow, but it has a square bill on it, and so I suppose you can use it as a Squarebill, but this one is called the Squarebill Sunfish, so it is actually marketed as their Squarebill crankbait. And like I said, Tackle Warehouse only has one size. I don't know if they have more sizes or not, but Tackle Warehouse has one of them, which has a length of 2.5 inches, a weight of 3/8 of an ounce, so it's fairly light. But I wouldn't fish with a lighter Squarebill than 3/8 of an ounce. And it's a floating crankbait with a diving depth of about 2 to 6 feet, is what it says. You can see I've got a couple different colors. I've got the breeding bluegill and the pumpkin seed colors. Now, this one is a rattling crankbait. It has a one knocker in it, which actually has a pretty nice sound, especially for a one knocker, because one knockers traditionally have a more mild, bassy tone, if you will. And this one actually has a really nice sound to it. The same kind of open chamber style as the last crankbait, as that Stormarashi crankbait that I reviewed in the previous video. This one has that same kind of an open chamber sound to it. Not as loud, but still fairly loud for a one knocker larger ball that's in that chamber in there. I can't see it because this is an opaque paint job and I can't see what's in it, but definitely has a more louder sound than you would find in some of the other one knockers of the world. So really nice sound to it. Now, my experience on the water with it was, as you would expect for a 3/8 ounce crankbait, as far as casting is concerned. Casting I found to be standard, as far as in the 3/8 ounce crankbaits, you're not going to find the more superior casting, because the crankbait is just not, frankly, not heavy enough to really just dart them out there and get them in the exact locations that you would like to. I mean, you're not going to be long bombing these things anyway, but it's nice to have that heavier crankbait, like I alluded to before in the Stormarashi crankbaits, where I was talking about when they're slightly heavier and compact but heavy, you can really dart them into those locations. It's not necessarily that I want to be able to bomb them out there, even though it's nice to be able to have that ability to do that, but that's really not what, in my opinion, what these crankbaits are built for. As far as its action, though, it has just a very standard wobble and tail swing. There's nothing about it that screams, wow, look at that action. And I'm going to tell you what I think is the reason for that is, when I turn this crankbait onto the side, you'll see that it's more of a flat-sided crankbait. Now, it's not a traditional flat-sided crankbait where it just has a really flat side to it. I'll show you a KJ Flat by Lucky Craft. Now, this is a traditional flat-sided crankbait, meaning that it's just got a really general flat side to it, where this one still has some curves to it. So, but it is more of a flat-sided crankbait in the fact that it doesn't have an extremely aggressive wide arcing tail swing to it or wobble. It's just kind of more mild in its approach, but it's still a squarebill crankbait. In fact, when you look at the squarebill, the bill on it is very, very close to resembling that of a Strike King KVD. So, I mean, it's probably going to have some of the deflecting characteristics that you'll find in this crankbait that people are very familiar with, but still doesn't have that really wide arcing swing to it. Just more mild to it. Definitely not as mild as the KJ Flat or something like a Jack All Bling or something like that, but still more kind of like a tweener, I guess. I see on my notes here that it says it has a moderate fast float. So still in the cold water that I'm fishing in up here, I observed the crankbait as having a more a quicker than average float to it, which is fine because I guess when you're beating onto brush and stuff like that, and that thing's just going to come popping up with the buoyancy of the lure. So seems to have some pretty nice short shank hooks on it. I don't see any issues with it with the arc of the hooks tangling up with each other, so you shouldn't have any issues there. It does have an oval split ring here, which is something that I feel like all of these hard baits should have these days. The oval split ring just makes it really, really easy to tie the crankbait and not get that line tied right onto the split there. That's just a pain in the butt when that happens. So you'll see some of the features of the appearance of the crankbait. You'll see it has that logo eye that you guys know that I don't really care for, but whatever, it doesn't really take too much away from it, I guess. I mean, when it's moving through the water, the fish isn't going to see. It's just kind of looks like a red eye going through the water, or a red and black eye going through the water, which is fine. So, but I really like the crankbait. I mean, for a $6.95 crankbait, this is actually pretty nice. Being that Sébile normally has their crankbaits in the $14, $15 range, to buy something from them that is $6.95 with good quality components on it and it is actually functional in the water, I really can't ask that much more out of a $7 crankbait, really. I mean, a Strike King KVD costs you about $5.95 or $6.95. So you're really right there with the Strike King, but you're getting something a little different with that flat-sided approach. So if you're looking for something a little bit more subtle in its approach, try this thing out. So go ahead and show you guys the colors that I have here. Like I said, I have this pumpkin seed color here, which is just basically a bluegill. See the bottom of it, it's got some writing here. See, it says Sébile 2.5-inch Squarebill Sunfish. The fact that it says 2.5-inch on there just leads me to believe that they either A, have another one out there, or B, plan on coming out with an either smaller or larger version of the same crankbait. So there is pumpkin seed. Let's see if I can focus on it. Pumpkin seed. The next color I have here is called Breeding, not Bleeding, Breeding Bluegill. Breeding Bluegill has an orange bottom with that scale pattern, olive green top to it, and almost a black head. In fact, it is a black head with that ear right behind the gill plate there, raised gill plate there. So just adds to a little bit more of the feature of the crankbait. There is Breeding Bluegill. So check this thing out if you guys get the opportunity. I really like the sound of this crankbait. I mean, especially, I mean, if it had a wider arc to it, that thing would really be knocking on it pretty hard. But the fact that it just kind of has a more subtle swing to it, it's not going to really knock against it that hard. But still, I mean, the fact that it's as loud as it is and it has an open chamber, it's still going to be louder than it would be than if it was just in a small centralized chamber in the dead center of the crankbait that you'll find on most of the crankbaits on the market. So check this thing out, the Sébile Action First Squarebill Sunfish crankbait. If you guys like the video, please hit the like button down here, somewhere here, depending on where it is on your player. It could be up here. And if you guys have any comments or experiences on the water, leave them below so people can learn from your experiences. If you have any questions, leave them down below. You guys can always hit me up on Facebook, as you guys know. And stay tuned for my next reviews. I don't know which ones I'm going to do next. I've got a whole bunch of reviews that I got to do, so hopefully I'll be getting them done here really soon. Thanks a lot, guys. Take care.